until you don't have a pain point with that data, you will not be able to build anything. So you have to define that problem. What will I solve with this data?
If you think AI today is impressive, 2026 is going to make today look like a prototype.
AI native agencies will be in place, and everyone will see the integration that will happen on different levels. So it's not going to be scattered anymore. Any functional unit of the organization will not be left alone.
What is the difference between AI agents and automation?
At a lot of places, there's a lot of skill set training that usually used to happen. But the shift will be from skill set training to systems thinking. Now it is important that we move towards a more data-backed kind of a environment, because not everything is known to us. But in data and patterns, you are sure to know about multiple things that you would have not envisioned was there.
You are watching 101 Talks with Sachin Menon, breaking down complex ideas into simple conversations.
If you think AI today is impressive, 2026 is going to make today look like a prototype. We are moving into a world where AI doesn't just analyze data, it takes action. Decisions are no longer made in meetings, but inside systems. And instead of one massive AI model, companies are quietly shifting to smaller, faster, embedded intelligence. And here's the uncomfortable part. Most companies are still stuck building dashboards while the world is moving towards decision engines. So today, this is not just a conversation about AI. This is about data trends that will decide which companies move faster and which ones get left behind in 2026. And to break this down, I'm joined by someone building right at this intersection. Divya Krishna, co-founder and CEO at DataStride Analytics. Divya, great to have you here.
Hey, thanks, Sachin. Thanks for having me.
Divya, before we get into AI trends, you worked across places like Bosch and Collins Aerospace, very structured engineering heavy environments. And now you are building in the AI space. I am curious, what experience in the journey shaped how you think about data today?
Okay, so a little introduction about me. I have a bachelor's in electronics and communication engineering. I was a core domain person, and I joined the automotive industry where I led a lot of software development, embedded software development. And then I did my master's in data science. So from there, I was the head for data in one of the biggest automotive companies. And that's where the intersection of domain versus data, right? So when we are talking about data to value, there is a lot of things that go behind it. And one of the major aspects that drive data is the domain side of things, the understanding of it. So whatever I saw on both the ends, it's pretty extreme if you see. One is on the system side, the other side is completely patterns. So the intersection of both really fascinated me. And that's where I started building a lot of applications in this space. So that's where I think the interest came in on how we can make these systems more intelligent. I think, yeah, that's how the journey started.
When did that shift happen for you from building models to help businesses make better decisions?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
you partly answered, but I wanted
Yeah.
to dig deeper onto that.
So I think what I saw was a lot of fragments in this data supply chain. So there's data generated, there's raw data, then it's stored, then it's cleaned, then transformed, and then consumed. So this complete process from raw data to value was pretty fragmented. So I saw that there were a lot of dashboards being built, a lot of models being built, but it is not useful until those things are used by the end user. I saw that the last mile of decision making is still not integrated into this ecosystem. So that's where I saw that there's an opportunity, kind of a gap in the industry, which can be addressed with more integrated systems.
Yeah. See, basically, if the model worked, everyone was happy, right?
Yeah.
Even if the business had no idea what to do with,
Yes.
they just have the reports with them and they were happy. That was the
Yeah.
phase.
Yeah, I think I've been through that phase wherein, achieving a 90% accuracy was considered to be a win rather than the utilization of that model in the real world scenario. So I've seen that phases wherein we've built really good models, but without a problem statement, without an end goal and an outcome, it still doesn't hold any value. So I think that's where the industry is moving, where initial investments were a lot in terms of data analytics and data teams, kind of outcome that is expected of of these teams was still not met. So that's the gap that we also saw at the very early stage.
Okay. And coming to your maybe your company, DataStride, let's simplify this for someone hearing about DataStride for the first time. What
Sure.
exactly are you building, and what is the real problem you are trying to solve for enterprises today?
Yeah. So as I was telling, the complete data supply chain in an organization, it is pretty fragmented. So there are multiple people involved and multiple processes involved. So what we have done is we've told we'll do the heavy lifting, we will automate it, we will give that intelligence, and it will become a layer on top of the data ecosystem that's there in the industry. So it's like a decision intelligence layer which sits on top of your data ecosystem, and you as an end user, without the knowledge of data science or without the knowledge of data, like the processes involved in data, still will be able to use that data for your day-to-day processes. So that's the kind of simplification that we are bringing in, and we are solving that value gap, data to value gap that is there in the industries today.
In my understanding, we have dashboards, we have reports, yeah. But DataStride comes where what we do next when that
Yes.
question arises is what
Yes.
DataStride is trying to solve, right?
Correct. So I think I can take an example. I was having a conversation with one of the consultants of a big MNC. So their major concern in the MNC was that there were around thousands of dashboards, but no one was utilizing it. So these consultants were hired to see how this can be reduced, because the cost of analytics was going up and they had so much of technical debt. So that's where these consultants came in and started seeing that, okay, these are unused, these are not very useful for the day-to-day insights. And they started removing that complete debt that was there. So that's where I think I'm seeing that everything is being built, but for what purpose is the question that everyone should start asking.
Yeah. And when did you see this gap, that this needs a completely different approach, right?
Yeah.
When was that phase for you?
I think I did my master's in Germany on connected vehicle topic. I did my thesis and I came back here. And that's when I started this journey of understanding how data in real world scenarios is utilized. I saw that there are a lot of gaps, a lot of processes. And the time taken for creating any value out of data was years. It was not even months. So that's the kind of gap that I saw. And I wished personally that I had something magical that could reduce this time that I take for doing all of this. So that's where I think me and my other co-founder Suma also, she also worked with me and we saw that gap and we wanted to fix it.
Yes, that was your epiphany.
Yes.
See, coming to the human in the loop, we are automating more and more. But where do you intentionally keep humans in the loop in DataStride? And because full automation sounds great until
Yeah.
something goes wrong.
Yes. So I think I've seen that the how part of it, how do you do certain things can be automated, but what has to be done, the problem framing, the strategy that has to be taken, and wherever there is human to human interactions and negotiations, I don't think there is still AI around it. It'll definitely require a lot of understanding of human behavior and patterns. So the how part of it, I definitely leave it to AI, but the what part of it is still with us and it is going to expand us more.
So, what is with the humans?
Yes, so
The
it's the
how part
problem.
is
How is with AI agents or AI, and then the how, what is with us, that is problem framing, strategies, what you do with it. So data is there. Until you don't have a pain point with that data, you will not be able to build anything. So you have to define that problem. What will I solve with this data? So that shift in thinking is what will make humans more valuable.
okay. Okay. So, all right. This is the part I've been more excited about because everything we have spoken so far kind of builds into this.
Okay.
Like the big trends enterprises need to pay attention to right now, 2026. And I was going through your article about the same thing, and
Yeah.
we'll speak more on that. Trend
Sure.
one, what you mentioned was agentic AI. You talk about agentic AI where AI doesn't analyze, it actually takes action.
Yes.
That sounds powerful, but also scary. How close are enterprises to actually trusting AI to take action on its own?
So I think enterprises are in this trust transition phase, I would want to call this. So they believe that AI can give insights, but completely autonomously taking over something, there's still that gap. So to address this gap is where multi-agentic systems come into picture. So it takes care of validations, any response being given out. So it sees whether this is right or not. The guardrails around such kind of systems become very important. Also, how you can trace back any kind of decisions taken. And if there are very critical decisions, then humans definitely have this in between authority to accept that decision or not as well. So we are in that phase wherein the start has happened. Everyone wants to move towards more automation and more operational efficiency, I would say. So the transition has started, but I think it will take some time to get there. So the guardrails around the system become very important, and also the transparency of the systems.
Okay. So, in 2024, 2025, agentic AI was a new term.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah,
most people are talking about it, and acceptance rate we are seeing
yeah.
at a higher stage. So, what is the acceptance rate in the enterprises where you are dealing with?
Think enterprises until last year there was a lot of experimentation that was going on, but now they know the kind of value it can bring in. So they're automating things that can be automated. So they're looking at which is the most operationally viable thing that can be immediately automated. So they have started adopting it in smaller segments, smaller places where this automation will not affect them on a longer term. So I think there have been a lot of examples, right? So wherein certain agents were put in, and they were very vulnerable. The external world was able to hack and get in a lot of information.
Yes.
This has happened with a lot of big companies as well. The recent one that happened also, right? So
Yeah, the cloud one, right?
the
Co-
McKinsey, there was a agent called Lily, and
Mm,
that's where this intrusion happened of accessing the data
mm,
that it was
mm.
using. So such kind of examples are there. So it's there. I think it's happening. So let's see.
Because I read on cloud that
Huh.
it removed the entire database,
Yes.
production database of a developer
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
recently last week. So,
Yes.
yeah. Luckily, AWS had a backup and he had to restore it. So,
True. No, that's why I was telling. I think the systems that will be in place, right? So that is very important. What kind of backup systems, what kind of guardrails you're going to put in. When is it that the human has to know what is happening? Until when the automation can work? All these decisions have to be in place. That's where humans come into picture, thinking what has to be the system.
Divya, the second trend, what you mentioned,
Hmm.
is about decision intelligence,
Yes.
right? First of all, what is decision intelligence? And second, are we moving from this gut based decisions to system driven decisions?
Yeah. So decision intelligence is like until now, there was lesser data. The volume of data was lesser, and the systems also were not too complex. But as in when the advent of internet and the kind of information that started flowing in, plus the systems became more interconnected. It's having a huge volume of data, and it is impossible for any human to be able to directly consume it without system where there is no automation. So I think that's where the decision intelligence layer is a layer which makes this accessible for decision makers. So this intelligent layer, so it bridges the gap between complex tech systems and where the data is stored, and to business users. So this gap that is there, this AI layer will bridge that gap. And I think when decision driven systems are, we have worked with a lot of pace, and we have made a lot of gut decisions. But with the kind of data that is coming in, now it is important that we move towards a more data backed kind of a environment, because not everything is known to us. But in data and patterns, you're sure to know about multiple things that you would have not envisioned was there. So, for example, I think for an example, if we take sales and marketing, if you take, so it's a lot of about relations and how you negotiate, but also the trends previously, what happened in which region, where is the budget going on, from which company is interested in what technology. Multiple things together come to play the sales part now. So it's not just the connections anymore, but the overall ecosystem, the indicators of the ecosystem, that is very important.
Like they say, numbers don't lie.
Yes.
That's how the decisions are made by AI. And this part actually fascinated me more.
Okay.
is that is the trend number 3, that enterprises will start using small models more and more.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
There will be a shift towards smaller AI models.
Yes.
So, do you think smaller models will actually become more practical for enterprises?
I'm seeing is these smaller models, these are very specific to a particular kind of task or a particular kind of information that you would want to share across. So it becomes very easy and portable. Since it's not too huge and is also not too expensive, the initial phase of experimentation becomes very easier. And you can train your own kind of smaller agents which can do things for you, right? So that's where I think enterprises are already looking at different models for different kind of tasks, and LLM becomes pretty generic, the large
Mm,
language models.
mm,
But
mm.
SLM, you will be able to make it into more specific, your kind of enterprise ready. So that's the shift that will happen. So what I see is a combination of multiple smaller language models orchestrating different tasks and methods. So that's where I feel the enterprises would go. Though large language models, I think they're great at particular things, but when it comes to specificity, smaller language models are the answer.
Okay. And one more thing, what you mentioned could be the trend number 4, if I'm
Mhm.
counting it right.
Yeah.
The action pipelines, like the maybe from dashboards,
Okay.
there will be a trend of moving into the action pipelines.
Okay.
So, what is this the shift and what is action pipelines?
So when we are talking about agentic systems, right? So it is not just looking at certain things, but it is also taking an action on top of it. So before what you would do, now you're letting these pipelines be in place, which can work for you 24/7. That's the shift that a lot of enterprises are looking for as well. So when Google CEO says 100x productivity, they're not saying that this is some fancy word, but they're looking at how these pipelines can be integrated into the ecosystem so that it starts working for the organization. So that's where these action pipelines are crucial for the organization operations and even productivity. So they're looking at how this can be made more and more trustable and accurate so that these action pipelines can take care of all the tasks that are assigned for it.
Can we call this action pipelines as decision engines?
Yeah, definitely. So I think every action pipeline will have its own task, the decisions that it has to take. So I think this will be definitely a decision engine.
So, we zoom out of trends.
Yeah.
Let's address the elephant in the room. Everyone's thinking, is AI going to replace data scientists? Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So, from your experience, what parts of the role should AI take over and what parts deeply remain human?
Okay. So I think data science courses, right, currently are teaching a lot of skill sets, though it is essential, but the world is moving towards automating those skill sets. So when I say automation, I think, for example, data cleaning or data transformations or maybe pattern recognition, anomalies. So these are certain things that now agents can take care as well. So when we were taught data science courses, right, the emphasis was more on the methodology and the process. But what I learned in the real world, wherein I guided a lot of people as well, is data science is not only about how you do something with data, but it is the why part. Why do you have to do it? Why this data is important? What is the value it can generate? If these questions are not answered by data scientists or analysts, then that's where the gap is. So the courses are not teaching this mind shift. So a data scientist or a data analyst job is to see why this data is important. That's the primary job. And that is safe. That is still there. So only thing, as I was telling, is only the how, the process part, which will be automated.
And you also talk something like human-centered data science,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What does that actually look like in practice?
Okay.
Human-centered data science.
So I think today how organizations are working is there's a central data team which is catering to multiple functions in the organizations. For example, a HR, a finance team, or it could be like a sales team. But this individual team alone cannot take this burden of data. So this has to be with this power of data has to be with the people who understand the value of that data. So for example, finance guy will understand the finance numbers and the importance of it much more than a data team. So, for example, if it is a sales person, he will understand, the sales data much more. So, this is the shift that we are talking, wherein data becomes an integral part of day-to-day processes. So, when I say human-centered, it means that this data analytics, which was very niche, will be given in the hands of people who need it the most. So, that gap of, I would say, technology and the business consumption, this gap, right, is where the bridging will happen. So the business users will be able to directly consume data for their decisions. So that's where I was saying, for humans, it will be aiding those decisions, and it becomes more human centric. So any technology that comes in ultimately has to aid humans for a better living or a better ecosystem. And that's where we are moving.
That's a great thought.
Yeah.
And we spoke about trends in 2026. So looking ahead, like 3 years, 4 years, what genuinely excites you about where AI and data is going?
I think it's going to be great and crazy, actually. So, if you see, a lot of investments are happening around the world for creating AI native companies. So, what they're doing is they are grounds up building AI first systems, and they're moving towards AI first companies. So, this investment, I think, multiple people have already raised in US, and here also there are examples of such kind of systems in healthcare. If you see, there's a company which is focused on integrated AI ecosystem for hospitals. So this is called Super Health. It's there in Bangalore.
Yes, I keep seeing their feeds. Yeah.
Yeah. So they also have an application called Super OS. So it's zero wait time for the patient who comes in. So this is a proper AI first native system that is built. So the future is with data, with analytics being the core building blocks. These AI native companies, AI native agencies will be in place, and everyone will see the integration that will happen on different levels. So it's not going to be scattered anymore. Any functional unit of the organization will not be left alone. Everything will be working together to drive the organization's ROI. So that's where the world is moving. I think with data and analytics being the core blocks for it.
Okay. Wonderful. The seed has already started, right? That
Yeah.
too in Bangalore, like
Yeah.
Super Health
Yes,
on the
yes.
healthcare system.
No, that
Yeah.
feels great, right? I mean, whatever application they build for hospitals, there's a living proof that it works in their own system. So they have their own hospital and they're showcasing that this works there.
Yes. Radhika, and coming to the students and early career professionals,
Yeah.
what should they focus on today? What things will become irrelevant for them in next 5 years?
Okay. So what I feel is, I think at a lot of places, there's a lot of skill set training that usually used to happen. But the shift will be from skill set training to systems thinking. So, for example, if I am learning something, I have to learn in and out of it. So, data science, right? It's a topic. Data science as a skill set is only about the process involved, how to deal with data, cleaning with data, building models. But a systems thinking is where this data is used, what kind of data it is, where is the impact of this data. So all of these things put together is where the shift will happen. So it'll be like an end-to-end solution kind of thinking that the individual has to develop. It cannot be individual skill set and I'll only work with that. It won't work like that. They have to build end-to-end systems and know about those systems. I think that's where the world is heading, and everyone should take that for their learning.
Like, say, the foundation has to be strong, right?
Yeah. And the foundation needs to be multifaceted. Like it has to have domain, it has to have, process, hardware, software, multiple topics, right? So they should know how a system will eventually work. It cannot be in isolation with just a skill set. I think that's where they have to put in a lot of thought. And courses also have to evolve that way. There is a big gap on what is being taught and what the industry demands today.
So we come to rapid fire.
Okay.
Quick answers. What comes to your mind first? Right?
Okay. Sure.
Coffee or quiet thinking time?
Quite thinking time.
Okay. One data science task you would happily give to AI forever.
Data cleaning. Like 60% of time organizations spend with data cleaning only.
One AI buzzword you secretly wish would disappear.
Ironically, the AI agents, because it's very misunderstood and people are not able to perceive what is the difference between AI agents and simple automation.
If I may ask, what is the difference between AI agents and automation?
So automation is, for example, there's a workflow and you would want to replace it. You know, the rules are there. A, B, C, D, E, this is how you would want to do it. But when it comes to AI, it has an intelligence layer with it. So it has to have a backup of data. It needs to have the rule set and an understanding of its own to come to a decision. And that's where I think the difference is. It's not a straightforward, simple, rule-based pipeline or a workflow. It is more integrated, intelligent workflows that we are moving towards.
For younger developers and students who are watching this, it could be like before it was Zapier, right? Which was giving rule-based connections.
Correct.
Now it is something like N8N or Make, where you
Yes.
put intelligence between the flow.
Yes,
right?
yes,
So
truly.
that distinction has to be there between
Yes, yes.
automation and AI agents.
Definitely.
One AI tool or approach you trust most today?
Okay, so multi-agent systems. I think especially I can say SIA. This is our product as well, but we have a multi-agentic architecture. The trust is coming, the accuracies are coming because of multiple agents doing smaller chunks of the complete pipeline, and that's where also the transparency part that I was talking, right? So I think multi-agentic systems is the approach that I trust.
One misconception students have about data science.
That data science means building machine learning models.
Okay, so we come to the end of the rapid fire.
Yeah.
What's clear from this conversation is we are moving from data that informs to systems that act.
Yes.
When you look at 2026 agentic AI, decision systems, models, data is no longer just informing decisions, it is starting to make them.
Yes.
Which means real shift isn't technology, it's trust and judgment. And companies get this right, won't just move faster, they will redefine how decisions are made. See, ultimately, with data analytics, the space that we are in, we are moving towards integrated systems. So it's not it's not in isolation anymore. So you cannot just have skill sets alone. So you have to think what is the value data can drive, the outcome, the impact that it can create. So I think that's where I would want a lot of people to start thinking. With any new technology that comes in, there is an opportunity for humans to expand their thinking, expand their boundaries. And this is exactly where we are in today. Initially, in the starting years, it was physical things that were replaced, like, for example, a machinery that could do a lot of work instead of a human. Then now there's a lot of automation with respect to mind related activities, like coding can be one of them. It can be many of the simple works, maybe with an Excel that you do. So where this is being automated, then it pushes humans to think more and expand their boundaries. So I think we should all move towards doing that to explore what else can be done in the world. Divya, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thanks for joining. Thanks Sachin. It was great talking to you.